Smells nice. My name's Philip Higham. I play the cello, which I began when I was 8 years old. I'm very embarrassed to say this, but I really wanted to learn the violin when I was younger. And at my local school, where I grew up in Edinburgh, they were offering cello lessons. And I thought, well, it's not the violin, but it's pretty close. I wish I could pinpoint, this performance or that memory or whatever, but I think something clicked around the age of 15 with the cello, and I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I was born in Edinburgh, in Scotland, and grew up there. I live in London now, having been in various places, including Manchester and for a short time Berlin. But now I'm based in London. There's so many different faces to the city, which I think is quite exciting, and you can always escape somewhere or tap into different areas and then come away again. So it's a fantastic place to be based as a musician. I should say Beethoven was a composer who really, even when I knew very little about music, when I was 8 or 9, for some reason I was always drawn to Beethoven's music. And I heard on the radio in the car one day with my mum, I think we were going to the supermarket or something, and I heard this amazing piece coming over the radio, because I could hear there was a solo cello, and there was also a solo violin, as well as the orchestra. And then the piano came in as well. I thought, goodness, what is this piece? I didn't know that a piece for these instruments could be written. And it turned out it was the triple concerto by Beethoven, and we sat and listened to, I think, the whole piece, which we'd happened to tune in not long after it started, so it was quite a long wait. I think that's probably one of my strongest early memories. Am I mumbling? Because I tend to mumble. Having gone through college and also school, I should add, my appetite has only gone like this. It's just broadened, and there's so much music. When people talk about classical music as one genre, it's quite misleading, because people say, I don't like classical music, and I say, well, there's 500 years of what we can include, well, more if you want to include as Western classical music. Well, Britain's music is something that I've come to relatively recently. The suites demand an awful lot, because, as in any solo piece, you're completely responsible for everything. It's quite liberating as well. You've got a sort of blank canvas, but at the same time, you're responsible for every part of the music. And particularly the first and third suites are like there's a very strong narrative, and one has to keep that all the way through. The pieces are about 20 minutes, 22 minutes each. So it's quite a challenge to sustain that and hold the audience, but a very rewarding challenge. Sometimes the most unexpected concerts can turn out to be the most memorable in a way. Sometimes where you arrive late, or I don't know, someone forgets their music, or is a disaster, and then you turn up and it's a terrible piano or terrible acoustic. Sometimes in those situations, actually, one finds something more in reserve, or you realize you have more in reserve than you thought. And I don't know whether it's because it's against the odds, but sometimes you can produce things that you maybe didn't expect to, or didn't imagine you could. And that's certainly happened a few times. I've definitely played in places that were not designed for music, and that can be difficult. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot.